Number 5, which of the following actions would be the most useful for the architect to do following completion of the design development set? So this is, I find these kinds of questions a little annoying, but I wanted to put one in here because they're trying to test your knowledge, but they're also trying to make a point, right? And so you will get questions like this that are sort of trying to encourage you to have good meetings with your consultant teams, meetings at regular intervals with the client, meetings during the construction phase, and regular intervals with the contractors. So it's all about kind of systematizing and making things make sense. But it's also about starting with a really good program, starting with a reasonable budget, starting with all that, a well-informed starting point and with a good, solid team. And then always going back and checking against all of that information as you move along. Because you don't want what's referred to in a lovely way as creep. You don't want to just suddenly the building is 20% bigger because it just worked better, and now the building is obviously also 20% more expensive. And if you haven't told the client that you made the building bigger, well, then there's going to be a problem down the road, right? So NCARB is all about kind of systematizing all of that sort of process. So let's run through these. So just a reminder, which of the following actions would be the most useful for the architect to do following the completion of the design development set? So schematic design, potentially pre-design issues, then schematic design, then design development, then contract documents, so permits and construction sets, then bidding, then construction administration. So we're still in the design portion. We're not into the contract document set yet, but we are well through. We actually should have, by the end of design development, we should have a building that everybody knows what it is, what it looks like, what the materials are, all of that. But we just haven't done all the detailing yet. So A, review the current project against the initial budget projections. Absolutely. It's very easy to have creep on these things and things to get out of hand. And so at the end of schematic design, you're going to review the project compared to the original budget projections. When you get to the end of design development, you're going to review the project against the original budget projections. When you get to the end of the CD sets, the contract documents, you're actually not going to review. I mean, if you're smart, you will in-house, but you're not required to review because that's what the bidding is for. You're going to get the bidding is going to go through and do this. So the idea is you start with real information and then you always go back and make sure that you're still meeting that information. Let's look at B. Develop the bid forms to produce the most accurate and useful bidding possible. That is absolutely true at some point, but not yet. You can't be putting together the bid forms at the design development stage. It just doesn't, you're not there yet. You have to wait until you have more information, more about what's going on. You've had conversations with the owner, which you probably really can't have until the end of design development about, well, what happens if the building comes in too expensive? Are there things we don't have to include? Are there things, are there things on the wish list versus things that must be in there? So B is a great thing to do, but it would be happening during the bid phase or at the very end of the CD phase. So not B. C, set up a meeting with there's a little wrong here. Let's get rid of that. With the team of consultants to review progress and coordinate overlapping issues of structure and MEP. Absolutely. This is totally the whole point of what I was just talking about in terms of setting up at the end of schematic design. All the consultants that are already part of the team should take a look and have a conversation. What do they foresee the problems are going to be? At the end of design development, everybody has their game plans going, and now we can see how things are going to be interacting and whether there's going to be a problem with, the size of a truss versus the size of a duct, and all of those kinds of things. And so this is the perfect moment to have that conversation before everybody gets into their full-on contract document setup. So now we have one more out of the last three. D, analyze whether current design is still in alignment with the original code review. Doesn't that sound an awful lot like A? Yes, it does. What a good idea. So D is absolutely a good one. Let's look at E, initiate the review of the means and methods for the construction. Unless it says that you are actually doing the construction end of things, that this is a design build project, the assumption is that it is not design build, and therefore means and methods means the way that things are going to be built and the schedule by which they will be built. That's the GC, unless the question specifically takes you down the road of being a design builder where you're actually responsible, the architect is actually responsible for the construction, but it's very, you might get a question or two like that, but very unlikely. Anytime you see means and methods, that's sort of the old-timey way of saying, how are we going to actually build this thing? The architect has put together the intent, the design intent, which is all your drawings and all that information in the spec book and all of that. That's all the intent of what things should be, and then the contractor brings the means and methods and the schedule to actually make it happen. So absolutely not for the architect to be doing the means and methods, like I said, unless you've been specifically contracted to do it. And then F, order the survey to determine the site design viability. If you have done the design development and you haven't looked at a survey yet, you are sunk, man. That's a very bad time to get your survey because you're basing, the whole design off where it can fit on the site, and that's something you actually have to start. So F is wrong for lots of reasons. One is it's too late for that. I mean, I've actually had projects where we didn't get the survey until this point, but that doesn't mean it's a good thing to copy. So one is the timing is just wrong, but the other is you're not, as the architect, you are not ordering the survey. The owner is ordering the survey. Now, again, if the question includes that it's being taken from the developer's standpoint, POV, or if the architect is acting as a developer or something along those lines, then you might be ordering the survey. But there's a reason that the owner orders the survey. The survey is about the site. It's about it's a legal description of what the owner has that you are going to be putting your design intent onto. And so they are giving you that legal description. They are telling you about the soils that are there. That's part of that sort of telling you about the site. They are telling you, they being the owner, are telling you what the program is, what they need. They are giving you the information about environmental issues. So if they've done an environmental report, a phase 1 or phase 2, something like that, they are giving you that information. So they're also giving you the funding information and all the things about what are going to be the drivers of the design that you will then take and turn into a design intent. So if you order the survey, what that means is you are now taking responsibility for the legal information there. And if there's a mistake on the survey, instead of it being a problem of the owners, it's now a problem of yours. Even if the owner says, hey, could you just order that for me? You have now taken responsibility for it. So you absolutely never want to order the survey. I say that having ordered surveys probably, 15 times in my career, so at least, because you do what you got to do to get things done, but that's not the same as doing it right? This is an exam about doing it right, and so when you see something like this, unless the question specifically gives you an out, like you are acting as the developer while you're doing this, unless it says something like that, you never order the survey. That's part of the owner's responsibility. GC's responsibility, means and methods and schedules. Your responsibility is design intent and compliance with program, compliance with code, compliance with budget, and all of those issues. So there you go, A, C, and D.